Here we go. We are recording. So I'm here with Juan savin on ninoscorner.tv. And man, you're having an adventure, huh, Juan? You're out there with Jim Caviezel making the rounds.
Oh yeah, we've had quite a fun trip. I got some grief for Jim. Unfortunately, I mentioned the fact that I had gone out to pick up Jim in a monastery. Which, it's kind of Blues Brother-esque. They started out in a convent. We started out in a monastery.
Oh man, yeah, I met up with you guys in Fredericksburg, and you guys are just—I could tell it was going to be a blast, man. And so I'm just happy I caught some part of the leg of the trip, but this is amazing. So what are you guys doing? You're driving everywhere, right? This is a road trip.
Oh yeah. I wanted to take one of the Bentley convertibles because I want to put the top down, and relax. But he's got this Range Rover. We're driving Brit cars around, I guess. But he's got his Range Rover, so we're out there cruising the country in the Range Rover. What's really been going on is we were getting the marketing money, the distribution stuff for the Sound of Freedom movie that Jim did. And it's not donations. It's just we needed a handful of investors that wanted to invest in that part of the.
How's that going?
Fine. We're doing great. We've got, there was some legal things that had to be finalized up. So we didn't take any money until that was cleared up. I think that got cleared up yesterday or today, which it was just a process. It wasn't like there's some problem or something. It's just the things you go through to do something like this. And so I think we're probably going to go fairly quickly. We have 2 more showings that we're going to do. We did one in DC on Sunday night. And of course, besides the key people that we had in, there was also folks from the industry and media people that we had in there. So I think we had about 150 or so people here.
You're in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Juan, you're right there. You see it. You guys probably both have seen the Capitol already. How does the Capitol look?
Well, of course, it's nothing like it was back January 20th and immediately after the 6th and stuff like that, when you had the layers and layers of fencing and concertina wire and all that sort of thing up and around. There's still some stuff up with the fencing around the Capitol.
So you would say Biden is there now?
No.
He's still not there.
Yeah, he's somewhere.
Wow.
The question is, what's really going on? You have some mysteries right there in plain sight that don't necessarily add up very well. And of course, I've talked about it plenty of places, so probably don't have to, repeat it too much. But certainly the question is, Biden is certainly president. So for those that want to say that I lost my bets, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I talked about there being anybody that believed that Biden, that they voted for Biden or voted for the Democratic candidate. Because I did these bets long before Biden was the nominee for the Democratic Party. And I said, anybody that voted for Biden by August 1st would be the fool.
You mean April 1st?
April 1st, yeah. And that President Trump would still be president. Well, a president is president for life unless he is impeached. And you can say that he was impeached by the legislative side of Congress, but he wasn't impeached by the Senate side. So only one side did an impeachment, which means that he isn't removed from office. He's still President Trump and will be for the remainder of his life.
But you've also said that a faction of the military identifies him as the commander-in-chief, correct?
Well, it's interesting. Lynn Wood, president's attorney himself, said the other day over in Myrtle Beach, where I was at in that same time frame, said that there's a backdoor channel with President Trump running the nuclear forces, and that they recognize him as commander-in-chief. And so commander-in-chief is a completely different hat than the president of the executive side of the triad administering America. You have
So this is still a dual presidency. That's what this is.
That's the way I would term it. Yes, it's a dual presidency, but one is the commander-in-chief position and one is the executive position. The question is, has the military technically behind the scenes recognized Trump as the commander-in-chief? Or has that not happened and we're waiting for something to happen? Because, of course, the military wasn't required to do anything, didn't even have an entry point into the election questions until they were required to hand over the keys to the nuclear arsenal and control of the nuclear arsenal to the president on January 20th. However, the Military Code of Justice 11.3, 11.4 put into effect in 1954 in case of a Manchurian candidate, somebody under the control influence of foreign entity power. There were certain protocols to be followed, much of them classified. If there was the data information that was of substance showing that he was under the influence of or an agent of a foreign government. And so if the election is a fraud, then the military or there's strong indications that, which the Director of National Intelligence report that came a month late, 33 days late on January 19th, is argued to have. Some people say it did, some people say it didn't. We'll just have to see how this plays out. I will tell you this. There, even in the discussions that we had yesterday, a lot of people, including you, Nino, I know your listeners, are very concerned about, how quick this is going to be over and how soon the pain's going to be done.
Shit, even me.
Yeah, well, long and short of it is, you've got to get, personally, I'd go down to a truck and trailer supply and get the extra heavy duty, waterproof for trailer axles that are going into the water, like on boat trailers, stuff like that. Boat trailer axle grease. Use that as a hand cream. I know you're wringing your hands awfully hard, but you need
I know you were going to go there.
This is going to get a lot more dire, a lot tougher. People, you think it's tough? Look, this is going to test the faith of even the truest of true believers. Some of these next moves that will occur in the months ahead are really going to be very hard to handle, but they have to be done. This
what
is
kind of moves are we talking about?
Well, this is a near-death experience for America, and it's going to get more dire, and people need to toughen up.
But you're saying this all goes into the plan, right? This all kind of moves into the white hats want this as well. They want this to happen so we can have an intervention, right?
Well, unless it's so painful that people never want to go through this kind of drama again, it's going to have to be pretty tough. And a couple of the things, there's a gut punch coming that people just aren't going to be able to see as part of the plan and grasp. It's going to be very hard. No. It's something else. I don't want to be specific. I just want to tell you that people will not see it coming. It will be a total gut punch. I expect every one of your listeners to take some deep breaths and understand that even if it seems that all hope is lost, the gates of hell, right over the entrance to the gates of hell, it says, abandon all hope here. Jeez. And yet, as long as that silvery thread of life to this world exists, even people in a near-death experience that have gone into hell and seen it and experienced it, and then by some divine grace of God have come back and recount the tales, recount their experience. Some people think it's just dreaming or something like that. Others say, no, every smell, every sensation was more real than it is even in this world. and believe that they've actually gone to hell and experienced what it would be.
Could it be an arrest of Donald Trump?
It will be very hard for people to grasp and see how these next steps could fit in and how we could come back from it. So everybody needs to just toughen up.
They're pressing criminal charges on him. Could you say maybe that could be it, Juan?
Enjoy the show. Watch, pray. And here's something else. We say pray, and I'm actually not saying that lightly. I got to tell you, oh my gosh. Okay, so yesterday, after showing Sound of Freedom, somebody came up to me in the show and said, we have Father Andre here, and wanted to talk to Jim. And I had extended an invitation to someone, asked me if it would be okay if the father came. I said, sure, of course. So Sunday, he gets on a plane. He's in Denver, Colorado. Now, who's Father Andre? Remember, I've talked about this before, I think even with your listeners, where I talked about that when President Trump came into office, before he and Melania spent one night in the White House, there was some priests that came and did an exorcism.
Oh, wow.
At the White House. Father Andre was one of the priests and came in. And then when he was through, he had, I'm Protestant, and I know folks that are Catholic, have many very close friends that are Catholic. And so, of course, Jim Caviezel's Catholic.
Right.
So anyway, Father Andre had left one of the icons with President Trump that he asked, President Trump actually asked to keep it, that he had used during this exorcism of the White House. And, Father Andre, I tell you, it was a very, hey, there's some deep, dark demons for us festing that place.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's this father that, he flies out to watch Sound of Freedom. It's a very compelling movie, and gets in touch with Jim for a little bit. They both speak Aramaic fluently, and so after talking a bit, then middle of the night, I get a note that Father Andre has a word for Jim and wants to know if we could join him, and he wanted to do it someplace, safe somewhere. And so I said, yeah, no, that's fine. We'll do it. And we had appointments all morning with people that had flown in Monday morning. Yeah, the Sound of Freedom we showed Sunday night at an area theater. And so we finished those meetings. Then we went over to this location, someone's residence that was hosting him. And so we had a great time. And, he said an invocation. We got blessed holy water and stuff. It was actually very sweet. And I kid about it. We're on a mission from God. I take him up in a monastery, we're on a mission from God.
I'll tell you what, whenever I'm with Jim, he takes me to church. That's for sure. He won't let me miss church. So I've been with Jim to church a couple times actually, and it's an experience. I'll tell you that much.
Well, we had a very good time, and anyway, I'd been kind of teasing about this, and it got the angst of some people, like it's crazy and it's clownish or whatever. No, it isn't. We're on a mission from God.
Right.
And God actually is, God has some smiles sifted in there. We're having some fun, but it is a very serious thing. Sound of Freedom, the subject matter, the trafficking of children, human slavery.
But hold on, Jim. Don't, sorry.
Yeah.
Juan. So yeah,
Juan,
don't use those certain words, because I want to try to put this video up on YouTube. So let's cut the buzzwords like that, what you just said. Just say something else, like if you can replace those words, because I want this to go on YouTube so people to see.
All right. So anyway, but it's a serious subject matter.
Yeah.
Everyone
slavery. Knows that this is big.
Yeah, it's big.
It's gonna change. When it gets out, it's gonna change human consciousness forever.
Well, there's more slaves and especially children on planet Earth today than ever in human history. You don't think God's paying attention? You don't think that we're on the line over this? This is a very serious subject. That said, you know, this is important stuff, and yet it's kind of a mash humor sometimes. We're still living life. We're having a little bit of fun, interesting times. So I got to tell you this. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So after we'd had some time together, and the father gets done giving Jim what he had for a message for Jim, he turns his hand and he lifts it out to me and says, and now I have a message from God for you. You know? Oh no, I'm in the sights. I'm trying to that's not right.
Okay, what was that? Can you tell us the message?
Well, it was a very specific, precise, word that he had, and it was a beautiful, and it took quite some time for him to give us all of that. And I received it. It was very beautiful, and as it was personal and beautiful for Jim. And so then we had the women at the house there had made this beautiful meal. He's Lebanese, and they made this Lebanese dinner for us that was, like 15 courses.
Love that. It's one of my favorites.
I mean, there was everything on there. Was everything, falafel, this and that. It was actually just tremendous. And of course, when you travel like this, you eat a lot of restaurant food. So it's kind of fun to get some home cooking. So anyway, I leaned over to the father and I says, what's interesting here, but you have to understand, Jim, when he called me and wanted to talk about this, because you introduced us. And so Jim, he tells me, that he really felt led by God, and that God had spoken to him, that he and I needed to work together on this film situation, that I'd be able to maybe bring some of the people together to get the film actually out and released, because they'd hit a wall. They weren't getting where they needed to get to. And, I took it up. You and I had you and several hundred other people out to Las Vegas. We did that showing, and then we started to work through the
By the way, that was a great move, Juan. That was a genius move on your part, and I really thank you for that, because we networked there, met a lot of great people, and that was because of you, man. So thank you.
Well, I think I would put it in that it's kind of a move of God. Okay, there's people that don't want to hear those kind of terms. It's just marketing. It's just no. There is a divine hand in what's going on here. There's no question in my mind. So anyway, so I told the father, he says, so Jim, he calls me and he says, I've got a message from God. I got to tell you. And so, and of course, Jim, he's, here's this guy, when he finishes the movie, The Passion, everybody's heard about this. He actually gets physically struck by lightning.
Yeah.
The last
he needed to have heart surgery from it. Yeah.
Yes, he had to have valve repaired. So, I mean, here's a guy that's actually been struck by lightning. He had a near-death experience, So, I kind of kid about it, but it was a pretty serious thing. And you got to think of the context. So then, if you remember in Vegas, when Jim called, we talked for like 3.5 hours. The next day I said, well, let me see what I can do. We're going to show it in my suite at the Trump. And then we decided, that wasn't going to be big enough, because I would put like 20, 30 people in there, 40, I don't know. So then I was going to rent a screen at one of the other casinos that could seat more like 50. And then that wasn't enough. So I went to another casino, the friend of mine, Gauguin, down there at the South Point. And we did a deal to rent a screen down there. And then one screening wasn't enough. We ended up with like 4 screenings. And then we showed The Makings of a Perfect Day, the movie I did with Jennifer Mack, which, if you haven't watched it, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I enjoyed both movies very much. It was a great experience for both. I mean, it's perfect.
It was really fun. Jennifer and I, getting to see her movie up on the big screen, that was a blast. And then we showed it an extra day, because Jim had to come in on Sunday, the day we showed Sound of Freedom, and he hadn't got to see The Called on Saturday. And so we showed that again on Monday. We had a whole bunch of people came back. I thought it was like 3 of us in the theater. It's like, half full. And so that was just a treat, a lot of fun. But the next day, if you recall, I don't remember if you stayed or not.
I stayed.
We had somebody. Okay, we had a gal there in Las Vegas who has a beautiful home, and she wanted to host a dinner. And so I invited a lot of people over, and we had about 50, 60 people that came over because I was doing a business meeting and I needed a place to sit and have
wasn't
dinner.
that the same house that we were at Friday night? The initial night? The
Yes.
big, beautiful house with the horse stables and all that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
and we came back and we came
I didn't
back.
do the dinner though.
Okay, so then what happened was I had gone back by the theater, the casino, and I was in my red vet, so it's pretty hard to hide. And my C8. So I had just run in to drop something off for Mr. Galgan, and then I had come back out and was getting to the vet, and there's Daniel Brinkley. And Daniel Brinkley,
I like Daniel. He's a good guy. I had him on my show too.
Okay, well, so he and I are talking, and I said, hey, I'm in a rush. I've only got seconds. And I said, well, hey, Daniel, we're having dinner tonight later. Why don't you come over and join us? And so he says, yeah, that sounds great. No, but I got this other meeting. I got this other thing. No, Daniel, come on. So we text a couple times during the course of the day. I sent him a couple notes, and he says, okay. So he comes to dinner that night. And we're having a great time. Jim and I are singing with the musician by the piano. We're having a great time. And we'd visit with Daniel a bit earlier, but I had quite a few guests that were there. And during the course of it, Daniel, may have had one more drink that he probably should have. And so the host says, hey, maybe you could see to if we get Daniel home so he doesn't drive. And I said, yeah, no problem. I'll drive myself. And so we finally get in the car, and I'm driving with Daniel, and Daniel says, I didn't realize what happened. I probably had an extra drink, because I had this revelation. I didn't even know until I got there. He says, I didn't realize not only were you W, but you're also Juan. And so he only knows me as W from, a long time ago. And so what happened was, the day that I had seen Daniel earlier in the day at the casino, when I was walking out, the reason he was at the casino is because Sean Stone was there, who'd come out to see the thing, and he wanted to meet with Sean Stone. Sean Stone had sent him a copy of the audio that I did over a year ago with Jennifer Mack, where I talked about near-death experiences and the fact that this election and the period after would be like a near-death experience for America.
Yeah, it's going a little longer than I would like, though.
Well, but think about this. You got to hear this. This is so funny. So I had said, this is about near-death experience. Well, Sean wanted him to listen to that presentation, and then he wanted to interview him and talk to him about that presentation. I think you did the same thing.
Right.
And the context was, comparing to what Juan had said about the near-death experience. Daniel's at the party, enjoying himself. We're visiting. He's listening to Jim and I. We're over with the singer singing songs by the piano, belting them out, just having a great time. And all of a sudden, it's like a lightning bolt from heaven again.
Yeah, both of them got struck by lightning.
So Daniel Brinkley, the way he was doing special work. He was a contractor, and he got struck by lightning.
Yes, both
and
of them
it changed
did.
His whole life. His whole life changes, and he's in this other thing. So Daniel's sitting there. The whole reason for doing this interview with him about near-death experiences is because he had a near-death experience when he was struck by lightning.
Yes, so, I think he got struck twice. I think Jim got struck twice too.
Yes. So then Daniel, he says, but Juan, you don't understand. I listened to the show and I finished it 4:00 in the morning. And then God told me, you got to get a hold of this guy and tell him this, this, and this, this at 4:00 in the morning. When he was there to have breakfast with Sean Stone.
I had breakfast with him.
I
had breakfast with him and Sean.
He says, I don't know how to reach this guy. He didn't know how to reach him. So he didn't know how to reach this Juan guy. And so he says, well,
wow.
if you want me to talk to him, you're going to have to help me find him and get together with him. 4 hours later,
Wow.
we haven't seen each other in 15 years.
That's
We've only
crazy. You
talked
guys
on the
have
phone.
seen each other before.
Well, we were both friends of Art Bell. So
Okay.
it's there. Okay. So the long and short of it is, here we get talking, and he doesn't even realize it. So then he says, and I have a message from God for you. And I didn't even know it was you until I heard you singing. And he had to have another drink because it shocked him
Wow. Holy cow,
so much.
man.
But Nino, you got to think about this. It's so funny. So, I was obviously pretty involved with entertaining like that. And I spent time with all the different guests and all that. But because he had an extra drink, I had to drive him home. So then that provided the opportunity. And he has me make a wrong turn or two. So the 15-minute drive takes an hour.
Yeah.
At which time he got a chance to sober up.
Daniel's a great guy. I love that guy, man. He's got a great guest on my show. I'm going to have him on. You just reminded me. I'm going to reach out to him and have him on again.
Oh, he's doing some great stuff. He's out in Florida, Palm Springs or Palm Beach, doing some filming on some very important stuff. I'll let you tell him about it. But he's a great guy. But anyway, so he gave me the message that he wanted to give me, that he felt led by God. So here, within 24 hours of hearing that message and then getting a message from God and having no idea how to reach out to me, and suddenly there we are, nose to nose in the by my vet. I didn't drive anything obscure, so it drew attention. And so he's, we wouldn't maybe have crossed paths. I was only there for a couple of minutes. I was at the casino for maybe 5-7 minutes, and he happened to be right there on the street, exactly at the
downstairs in that little cafe, right?
Well, he was actually out on the street by the car.
Oh, okay.
He was
had
waiting
breakfast with them that morning.
Right, he was waiting to get picked up by somebody. So literally, if he'd been out there 5 minutes later, 2 minutes later, he wouldn't have seen me. If he had been there 2 minutes early, he wouldn't have seen me. So he was exactly that time. And then then we get to the party, and I'm racing the whole time. I'm swamped. And all of a sudden, the one thing, he has that extra drink. And so I got to drive him home. And that was his opportunity to give me the message he had to give me. So then, two guys struck by lightning. Okay. And so I lean over across the table. I says to the priest, to Father Andre, I says, well, the last two guys that came to me with the message from God had been struck by lightning. I'd be pretty careful. The only thing is, they got struck before they gave me the message. And the Father Andre, no kidding, he leans across the table nose to nose with me, and he says, my ministry started when I got struck by lightning.
No way. No way. So that's three people.
Serious. I am serious as hard. He was struck by lightning. And
what are the chances you ever meet one person struck by lightning in your life, and you're there with three?
I mean, give me a break, But when a guy tells you,
I'd watch out, Juan. I'd watch out, Juan. Don't go outside when it's raining.
I have a message from God, and I've been struck by lightning. Father Andre says when he left where he got struck by lightning, it was on top of this building or whatever. And so as he's leaving, he'd touch the stones on this building, and lightning, little arcs would come off his fingers. His brothers were like, or his brother was like, eyeballs bugging out because it was so wild. But
no, that's amazing, man. So let me just bring you back real quick, Juan, from my audience, real quick, just on this. How are we going to bounce back from this gut punch? Because if it's what I'm thinking, it's going to be unbearable.
The one thing you have to remember is none of this. You got people that think that that
has to be the criminal charges, Juan. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. And if that happens, we're fucked. It's not good.
No, you have to remember that all of this has been gamed out. We've looked at every twist, every bend, and we've done this gaming out. And again, at the end of the day, as incredible, as unlikely as it would be that you could have three different guys. I'd never met Father Andre. He's all the way out in Denver. Within 24 hours of hearing about Sound of Freedom,
3 people struck by lightning. Unbelievable.
He's on a plane comes out, sees the film, and the next day we're sitting in the room talking. Just like Daniel, within 24 hours, he's on the plane, he's in the location, and we cross paths, and he has an important message. There's nothing here that is outside the reach of God himself. And those people that think that the enemy has control of the situation and that we're completely at the enemy's mercy, there's a hand of God on this whole situation. You know what the difference, and this is something Father Andre said yesterday that was kind of interesting. You know what the difference is between a loner that just wants to do his own thing and can run through life whatever way he wants to, and a king is? There's one difference between a loner and a king. A king is anointed to do what he does. And so he's under some hand of God type of a thing. There's a realm there, good or evil, that God chooses the rulers, the kings of the earth, gives them power and takes it away. Nebuchadnezzar learned that in Babylon. And so
that's who we have in office right now, Nebuchadnezzar.
Right. Even going out across the country, there's demons everywhere in angst. And there's people that don't see the hand of God in this exact moment in time. This film needs to be seen by the whole world. It's going to be a very important film. And there's demons cringing all over the earth.
Do you have
demon
any
servants?
Do you have any idea of when you think that it will come out? Will it be this year, next year?
Early next year is what we're shooting at. I think we'll hit international child or international.
No. Don't say it. Because this is going on YouTube.
All right. There's a moment coming, and it's not that far out. And
but during all this, the Sound of Freedom coming out and that you're pushing to do, and it's going to be, I know it's going to happen because every story you've told, I believe wholeheartedly that God's got his hand on this too, Juan. And during all this happening, the nation is catching fire with the audits. And during these audits, the big distraction, in my opinion, will be the criminal charges on Trump. Do you think that I'm right in saying that?
Well, it goes both ways. And remember, in chess, it's a game of attrition, and pieces get taken off the board. And you can't play chess and not lose pieces. And the strategy is, of course, to corner your opponent. And the unique thing about chess is the longer you play, there's less and less moves all the way through. Now, if you're playing chess on 3 or 5 boards that are interconnected simultaneously, chess at 3 or 5 levels, then you have more pieces, and you even will lose kings and queens on different levels, but it doesn't mean that the game's over. And even if a checkmate occurs, sometimes a checkmate isn't perfected because you have multiple kings. And the question is, if you checkmate a king and move pieces into a position to take it out there, do you expose multiple kings on another board or other boards? This is a very complex operation, and they make moves and we make moves.
Right.
And the one thing that people have to remember, while it has been gamed out, while there is a lot of there that's got to play through, at the end of the day, God himself will not be mocked. And those people that think that he's not here involved and in control do not understand what's happening. That crowd that showed up on January 6th showed up, and they had a mind of God attitude. They were very solemn, prayerful, beautiful, singing. They can be maligned, and the press can portray them a certain way, and all the mischief going on in Congress right now. But the reality is that's not an accurate portrayal of who showed up or what they did or how they presented. And they were praying for the soul of America, that America would get a hold of itself. We, the people, would get a hold of our country, our house, and get set in order with divine assistance. And then once we get our house in order, we can go out to the rest of the world, not to be our brother's keeper, but to be our brother's brother. And even this movie plays a part in that. And it was interesting what the father had to say, both to Jim and to me. And what was amazing was the unity of the message from these three different people in what they were presenting. And of course, the father didn't even know anything about me at all. Daniel didn't even have a clue what was going on. And yet he had a very nearly precisely exact same message in many ways. So there's, it's almost like the fingerprint of God on things that are happening here in the country right now. People need to take a deep breath. And if you're in fear, if you're afraid, if you don't think that we're going to make it, well, it's a near-death experience. You should be traumatized. You should be in fear. But you know what? Fear of a holy God
is a healthy fear.
Is in control, because if God allows a near-death experience for someone, it's not to traumatize and terrorize them just for trauma and terror's sake. It's not some pornographic moment for the sake of blood and tears. It is to give them that moment to see the path that they're on, and then to think again, and they get that one hair's breadth of an instant while the silvery thread is still attached to their soul in this world. And they cry out to God, God save me, God help me. And the stories over and over again. The angel Michael, some angelic presence, Christ himself shows up and pulls them out of the grasp of these hellish creatures in hell's heart itself, and they get another chance at life. That's America. And we, who are believers, need to be ready to help understand this moment for those around us. It's going to be a very traumatizing moment. It's about to get a lot worse. We'll have some fantastic rallies over the next few weeks, and people get a chance to see who really won this election and what it looks like. But
will it get fixed? I mean, I guess that's what you're saying. It's the hand of God. That's what it's going to depend on.
It's look, those people that were saved from these near-death experiences, there's a unity in what transpired. They didn't just go there and then, suddenly for no reason saved out of hell. They uniquely always have some statement of how they cried out to God. They prayed. They, in hell, there's more prayer to God in hell than anywhere. Seriously, please, God, get me out. Yeah, but they're gone, and there's a point where there's a point of no return. They cry out in desperation, but their cries aren't heard. Abandon all hope. But in this hellish moment, some still have an instant to find it. Daniel, he talks about that. Others who've had these experiences talk about that. Not all of them have experiences that fit my, particular view of, eschatology of religious belief, etc. But that's between them and God. I'm not going to tell them how to think of what their experience was. But
in other words, buckle up, folks. It's about to get really, really bumpy. I've always said it's going to be a hot summer, but a nuclear winter. What do you think about that, Juan?
I think that's not too far off the mark. And again, even the timing of discussing these issues as they're in the movie is relevant. And even let me just say this. I did the second edition of the book Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom. I mean, the second edition of the book.
Can you show it to my audience real quick? I see the back of it with.
Well, the second edition. Here's the.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
So, you're gonna sign another one for me, Juan?
Yeah, of course. So as you can see,
That's
if you remember on
nice.
your first
That's
edition,
really nice.
remember how on the first edition, every page has a cube. It's all in a very precise color of orange, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last day that Melania,
Here it is right here. I'm holding it up.
okay, well, there you go. Yeah. So there's the original. So you see the back of the first edition has President Trump on it.
Right.
Okay. So the back of the second edition has Melania on it. And Melania, every dress she wore publicly had some type of meaning. So ships at sea fly flags so they don't give away their position with radio communications that can be heard other places and triangulated on.
She said
So
stuff like Scavino does and all them. It's kind of like smoke signals, like
right. Well,
people who are paying attention.
I don't know if it's smoke signals. She's pretty dazzling. It's a lot more tangible than smoke. But she would wear different dresses that would have different meaning, and it's the flag of the day. So every time she's wearing a dress, she's actually intricately involved in messaging from the administration. So the very last
mean right there.
Well, this is the very last dress that she wore as FLOTUS. Okay, and so this dress has orange cubes, just like the orange cubes on all the pages of the book. Okay. And
what's the meaning of the orange cube?
Well, I said in the last lines of the book, I said election 2020 is equal to mega cubed, make America great again cubed to the third power is cubed over corn. And the corn is all these players. You talk about being taken off of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. You talk about having your program censored. All of those people involved in that, these media people, Facebook wasn't created by Zuckerberg. Facebook was a DARPA operation. He was just the recipient. And so we talk about these farm products, CIA, FBI, and other intelligence operations. They train operatives for undercover, for other lives, etc., at the farm. And so that's this training area. And those farm products, what do you grow on the farm? You grow corn. So these corn products are sifted out in the world as though they naturally came up in their geniuses and they get this corporation and that political position and become the leaders and controllers of us in the rest of the world and come up with the programs to choke us down and keep us from having an honest conversation. They're part of the enslavement, not just of America, but of the whole planet, coming from other governments too. The Brits, the Mossad, German intelligence, all these various places, China, Russia, etc., were being farmed by these farm products. So I said election 2020 equals mega cubed to the third power over corn. Equals M3 M cubed over corn. Melania agrees.
That's amazing.
Election 2020, it's still, even as she's leaving Air Force One and headed to Mar-a-Lago, she's still telling you it's not over. It's still about election 2020, and it's still about cubes, orange cubes.
Juan, we're gonna end this here. I know you're unlimited time. You guys are gonna go on your road trip, but I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Will Trump beat these criminal charges? Do you see him beating the criminal charges?
Let me ask you this. The executive, the president, is the executive office. You have the executive office of president that is certified by a corrupt Congress and a crooked court. So the three of them are working together. The part that's not within that criminal enterprise at this point in time, this captured operation, is the commander-in-chief role, which is a separate, complete position. And the commander-in-chief is in charge of, at the beginning point, of nuclear forces. NORAD, Cheyenne Mountain, still locked up tighter in a drum. Have you seen any aircraft that Biden's been on that have been designated by the military as Air Force One?
No.
When Biden's carrying his own suitcase onto the plane, his own umbrella, does it appear that normal security protocols are in place? What's going on with President Trump down in Florida? Are they treating him like a president that's out of office, or the security procedures, the security personnel?
Right, but the optics, you're basically saying military versus police force.
It's military forces versus policing forces. And when the enemy, we've been under digital attack, it hasn't stopped. We're still under attack, war by a different means. But a digital attack is still a WMD. It's a weapon of mass destruction.
Right.
Look at the pipeline that just got shut down in the Midwest. If you can hack and shut down a pipeline, can you hack and shut down voting machines? No. And when you find out that the voting machines have modems in them for communicating over the cellular lines, well, what's that about? They're not supposed to be hooked up to the internet. Not supposed to be able to control them. We have all sorts of revelations.
And all this is coming out, which is why I think these criminal charges are put on him now.
Well, remember,
distraction.
If you have a corrupt Congress, a corrupt judiciary supporting a captured operation of the executive office, if you're going to go against that, are you going to do it inside the court system, or are you going to have to do it external? That's why the military and military tribunals are the key. And it's not about all the military. Look, Secretary of Defense, people keep bringing that up over and over and over. Yeah, but the Secretary of Defense was this bad guy in charge. Secretary of Defense is an appointee from the legislative and executive branches. Even in the military, there's a division right now. We are in a dual presidency situation. President Trump hasn't been impeached. So even though he's stepped down from the executive office, he'll be president for life unless you get an impeachment that includes the Senate. And that hasn't happened so far. So they would like to see that happen in their wet dreams. There's drama ahead.
Okay.
Pray, but understand that this is not outside the realm of divine intervention, assistance, control, and even events, just like what happened with Jim and I yesterday, prove that. Jim was you got to think about this. Jim was in a monastery praying about the outcome of all these things because of the attacks going on and things that had been said, and concerns for his career, his family, his situation. I have similar concerns.
He's in a tough situation right now, man.
Yeah, but you know what? Prayer, and then God brings the right people at just the right time. I didn't expect to see Father Andre yesterday, neither did Jim, and yet God had him fly all the way out from Colorado, be at the right place, have the right situation, have us have a down afternoon that wasn't planned. We were supposed to leave a day, leave early yesterday. We ended up having some free time because of a change in the schedule, and all of a sudden here we had a moment that was, seemed to have just happened. In reality, I would say it was divinely ordained.
Beautiful.
We needed that. There was a certain message that had to be conveyed. We had the beautiful benefit of getting that, and now we continue on our way. We're on a mission from God.
How much longer are you on the trip for?
We're on a mission from God. When we're done,
so it's whenever it ends.
We have to get this phase completed, and then that will be in the hands of other people shortly. I think within just a week or two. And then it'll change, and there'll be other things that are going on. But there's this is a hand of God moment. There's people that might laugh at that and think that that's actually just being silly.
Well,
it's not.
I'll say this. At least I did my part in a way. I feel good about it. Like, I introduced you guys, so I feel like maybe I did a little something too. I feel pretty good.
Well, no. Think about this, Nino. You're in a move. A divine move of God. You played some role as a chess piece in this divine thing. Look, it's Casino Royale for planet Earth.
Yeah.
who's going to win this game, but we're starting here with America, and it's
literally when
it
I was
couldn't be
talking to
bigger
you,
stakes.
when I was talking to you on the phone, Jim was beeping in. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna connect these guys, and then boom, that's how that happened. And look what you're doing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
There you go, bro.
Well, I love you, Juan. You guys be safe on your trip. Where can people get the book? The kid on the side of the road.
Kid by the side of the road. It's over at yeah, it's over Gum Road. I think have you put a link in your show before? You might have it there.
I think this one's going to be YouTube worthy. So what's the link? It's
gumroad.com.
Gumroad.com. So GUMROAD.com. Go, folks, go there. Get the book, Kid by the Side of the Road. I've read it. I've read 40 pages, and I'm telling you what, I got to finish it. It's captivating. It's amazing. It's a wealth of information. True history. Well,
the one thing I was going to mention too, if people haven't watched it, go watch The Called, The Makings of a Perfect Day. That's the poster from the movie there on that page in the book. And it's just fantastic. And I think a lot of the stuff that's laid out there puts people in the right understanding of, what's ahead for America. We got some drama ahead, but at the end of the day, we got this.
We're going to pull through it. Well, I love you, Juan. You guys be safe on your trip, and give Jim my love, man. Give him a hug for me.
Hey, I'll give him a hug, but I'm probably going to give him a kick in the rear. Let's get going.
All right, you guys get on the road, man.
He's been doing the driving. I've been right seating. He's been left seating, which is such a treat for me. I usually drive.
Yeah, you're the one, and you love road trips. I know that.
Yes, but some people keep. Look, I think I look a little more Dan Aykroyd-ish, but I was told I was more of a Belushi on this one. But that's fine. I'll go ahead and do the eating. He can do the driving.
Well, I love you guys, man. Get on your way. I won't hold you
bro.
Any longer, Jim. So, see, I'm already calling you Jim. Juanito. I call you Juanito. That's your name.
There you go.
Thanks.
All right, bro.
All right,
talk soon.